Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. With you, Arab TV, one more time, and this is your host, Zaid Faransso. With me today, my guest is an aspiring calligrapher from the Bay Area. Mohamed El Geish is with us today to show us this art form and show us some of his works and tell us a little bit about something that most people haven't really considered before. Welcome, Mohamed.
Thank you, Zaid. Thanks for having me. I started learning calligraphy back in school, like growing up, since first grade, and it just grew with me since then. Unfortunately, I stopped doing calligraphy for a long time, but once I moved to the US, I felt the need to keep the tradition on, and I just wanted to get back to this, amazing art. Spend a lot of time learning again and practicing and practicing and practicing. And today I feel like I'm almost there. I still need to spend a lot of time. You know how people always say, if you put 10,000 hours in anything, you can be good at it. So this is my goal right now. I want to be a calligrapher, and I want to master what we call the Thuluth script, which is one of the hardest but the most beautiful scripts out there in Arabic calligraphy or Islamic calligraphy.
Pretty nice. So you're not a calligrapher by trade, not yet at least, and you're working in a completely different field.
Correct.
And since you're in the Bay Area and the Silicon Valley, I would assume that you're working in the tech industry.
Correct, yes. I'm a software engineer.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a software engineer by trade, work at Microsoft. It's been my dream to be an engineer. But at the side, I do other stuff that are artisty. So I do a lot of photography, and I do some paintings, and of course I do calligraphy. I'm originally from Egypt, one of the biggest countries on this kind of art. A lot of calligraphers come from Egypt, and a lot of people there actually taught me while I was growing up how to do calligraphy. I came here to the US like 6 years ago, and as I told you before, since then, I've been trying to get this art back through social media and a small circle of my friends, just sharing stuff I do every night, or trying to go to galleries and participate, or just as a spectator view the art and make connections and get people to know more about this art.
So your journey with the whole calligraphy thing started with school?
Correct. So we're taught calligraphy in schools. A lot of people do not pay attention to it because calligraphy needs two things: some talent. So you're born with it. So there's some gift, if you may, and a lot of practice. And it's kind of seems unfair that you have this as a graded course at school. It's just like drawing, I guess. But a lot of people neglected it for some reason. For me, my family has some, I think, genes. My mother has a lot, a good handwriting, and she studied calligraphy for a while. I think I might be better at calligraphy than her, but
Nice.
my uncle is also, really good at calligraphy. He also studied it, and my dad is good at drawing. And calligraphy and drawing are two faces to the same coin. A lot of calligraphers can actually write with amazing, impeccable detail. They know how to do the rules naturally without actually studying them. So it seems like there's this fusion between drawing and calligraphy that makes a good calligrapher.
Right. So what I see is that, like so many things in life, what makes a person head in a certain direction is a combination of nature and nurture. You got the good genes, you got the family upbringing, and then you got your own interest, and you're part of exercising, training, and practicing. And that's what took you to that level today, which I hope is not the end. It's just a step on the way. Now, while all people in their teens, in their 20s, gravitate to video games, movies, sports, and other things, you probably have the privilege of encouragement from the family, but I doubt that there's something inside you, something that motivates you other than just people's attention or people's preferences.
don't get me wrong, I spend my own share, on video games and, and movies and TV. But when I grew up, so there's a gap where I actually didn't have any interest in calligraphy anymore. That was mainly when I was growing up, like high school maybe, and college days, because first of all, I was in Egypt, so there's a lot of supply. I'm not the person who you would go to ask, for calligraphy or just practicing art. And at the same time, because I'm more into studying my, schoolwork, and I went to the American University in Cairo, so I got all the courses were in English, were taught in English. So there was not that much emphasis on Arabic when I was in this, stage or phase. But once I moved here back in the U.S. and I started there's this passion or tingling sensation that you want to do something that, returns you back to the days when you were back home. It's like homesickness, some kind of connection.
That's the nostalgia, huh?
Nostalgia, exactly. So I wanted to bring this kind of art to people who are Arab and they're here in the U.S. that might have not, been exposed to this, just because it's very rare to see calligraphers around. And at the same time, I want to keep the tradition alive. The same thing with the Arabic language, for example. I also did some poetry and stuff, but now it's harder to get back to this. I found that it was easier for me to get back to calligraphy just because it's an art. So poetry requires you to understand the language. Not everybody will understand how beautiful the poem is without knowing the language. And calligraphy is not like that. It's an art. And you have a piece here that proves that.
True.
A lot of people can just look at it as, this is so beautiful, even though they cannot read or understand what it means.
Yes.
So that's why I found that communication through art is the best way to bridge the gap between the East and the West, in a sense.
So I understand that your interest is not just on the mere shape of the letter, but also on the meaning of the letter. Your interest in poetry is part of that. But sometimes our way of thinking, let's say the dominant half of our brain heads in a certain direction. So some people are more visual, other people are more into the verbal form of the performance. So there was the gap, and then there was the interest period.
Yeah.
And what provoked the interest period, I understood, is the fact that you feel that you need to connect with your past to write something or do something that brings back the old days and kind of connects the bridges. How did you get to reconnect the technical part of it? Did you have someone teaching you calligraphy here? Is that possible?
So I started by finding where I left my pen that I get it's a reed pen, which is the traditional way to write calligraphy. And I remember when I was packing to move to the US, I made sure to bring it with me. And I kind of lost it for a couple of years. And then I found it. I searched for it and found it. And I started writing again. And that pen was given to me by a calligrapher in Egypt who taught me back in the day. And I still keep it till today. So that's how I started, and I found other resources. I got the paper, special kind of paper, the ink and everything. It's not as easy to find teachers here, especially that you need a lot of practice with them. And I've been searching a lot in the area. There are some people that I'm trying to connect with and try to get them together just to either watch them write or watch them teach others, because a lot of people will start with just learning how to write individual letters and then how to combine them.
Yes.
And then you can improve on that. And then the last stage is something called a license or ijaza, and that's when you're master in that script. And I'm not sure if I'm even I'm always self-critical, and I think, no, this is horrible. What I'm writing is just, it's bad, it's wrong.
Yes. And
I look at it as I need somebody to correct me and set course and look at my stuff and just put all the red marks on them, saying, no, this is not good, keep doing it. Because self-motivation is a challenging thing. I might look at it and say, it's okay. And my friends will also like it or say, oh, it's beautiful. But deep inside, I know this is not, I'm kind of a perfectionist. So I look at it as no, this is not going to cut it. And if you look at my disc, for example, at home, to reach one of these incomplete, incorrect, less than perfect drawings or pieces of calligraphy, I spent around like 100 attempts trying different combinations of how to write this letter, and I look at some examples and templates, and the way I taught myself was basically going online, finding books from people who are famous calligraphers. Some of them are from the past century, and they still have their teachings saved till today because they're geniuses. So I just go online, try to find out all the instruction manuals, basically, how to write this, script, and what are the rules for each and every letter, and especially the Thuluth script that I'm talking about has a lot of different ways, so many forms of each and every letter, and so many rules about the combinations and the interactions between a letter and the other letter. And I heard something from somebody online that was also a famous calligrapher. He said that the interactions between letters are like the interactions between humans. We even give letters some description that could be related to human. Like, for example, we have a letter wow. So it has an eye, and we say this is the eye of the wow. So the same way we talk to the letter ain, and we say, it has like curvature, like the stomach of the ain, or we say the posture of the aleph, like it's a straight line like that, and it tilts a little bit to the left, and so we try to, and then we say this letter should give space to that letter because it's more majestic, for example. So we have this kind of interaction, the dynamics between the letters that are very similar, and some of these the things we see in the drawing talks to us in a sense, and getting that experience on your own is really hard. You need somebody to show you and teach you, like, this is how you do this kind of artistic, penmanship. It's just a different sense of art that's really hard to learn on your own.
It's very, very interesting. In fact, when you were just mentioning it, I jumped in my head and I imagined the relationship between what you're talking about letters represented as humans with human parts, and what a layperson would look at, or the way a layperson would look at letters as mere representations of vocals and meanings of words and stuff like that. And comparing the two ideas will make a lot of sense. When you look at a calligraphy work, you can definitely relate to that by saying this is beautiful, regardless of what is said. It's beautiful as a piece of art. It's beautiful in the way the letters interacting with each other, and the way they're written, not just in what it says. And here comes what it says to just emphasize it even more, and that's why you pick notorious sayings, quotes from the Quran, from famous intellectuals, and that what gives it even a bigger dimension. Now it's big both in intellect, in the meaning, and in shape.
Yes.
That's pretty interesting. So you did that, you relied on yourself for a while, you asked people around. Do we actually have professionals around here, people who can give you a certificate or some sort of ijazah?
We do. I actually just recently figured out some professors who are also calligraphers, and I'm trying to get in touch with them to just have this ijazah or license, and I think this is what I'm gonna be doing in the next maybe year, just getting serious about this.
Very nice. Yeah. And then once you get done with that, with the idea and then the application, and then the steam starts to come out, so to speak, you start with the application. Let me get to the technical part of it. I kind of know, though vaguely, that this form of art requires certain types of supplies. A special pen, a special type of ink, and a special paper.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
You got it right. These are the three corners of writing. There's some other accessories that it also might require. Let me start with the pen. So this is a pen made of reed, and reed just grows on the shores of shallow waters. So back in Egypt, I used to see this all the time, on the banks of the Nile.
So just to interject, this is by no means an expensive thing. If you're in a country that has a river with some shallow waters. You can walk into the side of the river, pick one of these, chop it with a pocket knife, and you got your pen.
Exactly. Except for that, you have to wait for 4 years because it's treated in actually horse manure. Yes, I hope this one is not. But the
Well, if it
traditional
serves
way-
the purpose, who are we to say?
The traditional way is to treat it for 4 years, and the reason why they picked that horse manure is that it keeps it in a kind of temperature that's desirable. So it darkens out and it hardens, and after that you can shape it with a pocket knife, and that's what I actually use these days. It has some characteristics. So basically, the script I'm using or I'm writing right now is called thuluth, and the reason why it's called like that because I'm using 1/3 of the diameter of the pen to write. So what I do to shape it is basically use my pocket knife, cut it gently, very gently, to shape it like that, and then I have something to clip it from with an angle from the tip right here. And we're using a reed pen instead of a metal tip because of the flexibility. A lot of the letters require very sensitive touch with the tip of the pen, and at the same time a lot of curvature and hooks and things that might be really hard to write with a harder tip on a smooth surface like the
So
paper.
you've tried like
Absolutely.
space age gadgets, felt tip pens, and all the inventions of the modern life.
Yeah, mainly I've tried markers, and markers tend to be okay, but nothing beats traditional ink.
Okay.
And the way we cut it, after we clip the tip, we also make a small slit in the tip vertically so that it holds more ink.
Oh.
Yeah, and it should hold only enough ink for one letter, not more.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will cause extra ink on the paper, and then you might actually smudge it, and it becomes problematic. And you don't want uneven distribution of ink on the paper because it looks undesirable. So there are so many different kinds of reed and so many different kinds of regions where you get the reed from, and they all matter. A lot of people use the reed from one of the most famous places is Iran also for the reed, and they have one with like a flat back which is easier to write with and stuff like that. Yeah.
So can we actually see this? See the magic?
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. So I'm gonna try right here with the ink, and this is the traditional ink, by the way, made from soot. And people used to get the soot from the lamps in the mosques, so it gives you a more spiritual sense to the writing. And I'm not sure if you can get it inside here. There's some, if you can see, it doesn't actually spill.
So it's thick.
It's not just thick. There's a secret to it that I got from the calligrapher who taught me in Egypt. It's pure silk.
Oh.
Yeah, and the silk fiber here captures the ink and only gives you enough when you press in it, and you just have enough on the tip to write for one letter. So let's try something complicated first. One of the hardest letters to write is the Ain, and the Ain has which means eye in Arabic. It has an eye shape to it, and the first step in Ain is actually that you draw it. You do not write it. So I'm gonna draw something here, like this, and then fill it in. And as I told you, it's a little bit time consuming, so it might take some time.
All right.
It requires a lot of patience. Then I'm gonna complete like this. And I'm using a template here. one of the most useful space gadgets now is a light table or a light box, so that you can actually see what you're writing. A lot of people use this for combinations of words together, so you write them on different layers, and then the finishing step is to basically combine it on one piece of paper at the end.
That's smart.
Yeah. Just enough ink. And you have to have a sense of how much ink do you need, and you can always go back and correct and do it again. And
but you still have to maintain the same direction.
yes, which is a lot harder than it looks like. So the Thoth script has the characteristic that most of the vertical lines are tilted towards the left, and most of the horizontal ones are deep.
Mm-hmm.
And with the very thin part of the tip, I'm just going to correct some of the curves here. Like this.
Looks quite time consuming.
It is.
It is a delicate job.
Very delicate. And this is just one word.
Wow. Can we see some of that completed work of yours?
Yeah.
And it does look like a lot of work, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of effort, a lot of specific kind of angles and
A lot
delicacy.
of rules. Yes,
And I felt the delicacy even in the amount of pressure that you apply into every stroke.
It requires a lot of physical and mental strength. And I can also have to follow the rules, and I can show you how many dots. We use the dots as measurements. But let me just show you first how this will look like finished.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a combination of two words, and the interactions between the letters are very important to see. There's a shape here that's going upwards, and you're trying to make sure that it's kind of balanced.
Yes.
And that's why we have all these decorative, extras.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have their own rules, like what can go up and what can go down. And
there's that, I can imagine a shape of the whole sentence. It takes a general shape.
Exactly. Here's another one that's a vertical one. Thank you.
It's because it's still fresh.
Yes. So you can see here I'm using multiple, brushes or pens, or you can also use brushes.
Yes.
Different
this
sizes.
one is wider.
Correct. And this is a small one. Very easy. Same technique again. And this is the verse from the Quran. A lot of the writings we do are either prayers or verses from the Quran, just because of the influence of Islamic calligraphy.
And that's using multiple colors as well.
Exactly. It's also a good technique to have contrast. And I use white paper. We didn't talk about paper, but calligraphers used to use papyrus, and it was expensive back in the day. But then when Arabs discovered paper from China, they started using paper because it was much cheaper, more convenient. But you cannot use any kind of paper. It has to be extremely smooth. And what they do is they dye it, so it's not white. White is kind of harsh on the eye. If you keep staring at white, black and white, for example,
All right,
the contrast is tiring to the eye. So they use like, tea to dye it or something. And they also treat it so that it's coated in a kind of starch material that makes it easier
There's
to...
a lot of technical details in it.
Yeah, it makes the ink spread, but not so much. At the same time, it's very smooth. You can write very easily. And if you have a mistake, like the ones I always make, you can easily, just using a fine tip, you can remove the coating layer, and the rest of the ink will be fine.
Oh, pretty nice, pretty nice. Now, I'm intrigued, and I would assume that with this kind of eye for beautiful things, that this is not the only artistic thing that you're interested at. Any other things that you feel you're close to or that interest you?
I always say that I'm a calligrapher/photographer.
Okay.
And I've been doing a lot of photography lately for like 6 or 7 years. I think photography is also very close to my heart. Again, self-taught. I don't need a license to do this though, so
Yeah,
it's a different kind of art, and there's a lot of there's more room for innovation, and it's kind of the opposite kind of sense when you're taking the camera out and just snap, 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 and it's so fast, and you can go home and just upload the pictures and you're done. And at the same time, there are some rules, but you don't have to, get constrained by them. You can always break the rules. In calligraphy, it's kind of different. It's kind of
You
the
have a lot of
opposite.
rules.
Yeah.
I guess, but when you have an artist, you have an artist. Then the eye of an artist can spot beauty in more than one point. We saw this in that intriguing, delicate form of art that a lot of people don't know about, and we can see it in photography. You can very formally combine the two by taking photo shoots of your calligraphy work. That will be great.
Yeah.
Mohamed, we had a great time with you. It was very nice having you with us. It was very informative and very fun to see you do your work. And I hope that you get to the point that you will, the certificate, the ijazah, or any other point that you aspire for. Pleasure having this conversation with you, and pleasure being with you tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and I really hope to get this and maybe come back and show you work that I will be doing as a real calligrapher with the ijazah.
Looking forward to that point.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.